Dude, it snowed today, so it's a bit chilly. So I'm basically just taking us on a drive really quick so I can chat about some things, and I feel like this is how most of the videos have been because I started to post them finally after about a month of not posting them. So I'm like, you know what, I might as well just share them just to share them type of thing. So that's what I'm doing right now, and most of the time, whenever it's snowy outside like this, I don't like going outside and driving unless I have to go somewhere. But I was also like, you know what, I might as well go share this thing. Dude, gas is $2.69 now, which is great. It's very, very good. Yeah, it's very good. I just wanted to take a quick little drive because I like these little videos where I'm just like in here just talking about whatever's on my mind. And today, I don't know, bro, like I'm just wanting to, I do know, that's the thing. So like, I want to be able to create content, but I can only create so much content in a given day for like my own specific channel. So then I have to go over and make another channel so I can share these other things that I want to talk about, because it's like I have things that I want to talk about every single day, and these platforms, they only allow for me to post like one long form video every day and then a couple of shorts. Like I'm doing another channel right now where I wanted to make a challenge to myself where, and maybe I've talked about this beforehand, but I wanted to make a challenge to myself to be like, okay, can I make 120 videos or like a full month's worth of content in a couple of days? So that's what I did, and that's been the videos that have been getting a good amount of traction. Like I'm getting around 3,000 views every 48 hours on YouTube, if you're familiar with like YouTube analytics or things like that. So I'm like, that's pretty neat. Like I was able to create something like that. It took about 3 days out of my life, and all I did, it was just me basically just like, okay, like what's the topic? Okay, this is an anime that I was watching. Okay, I watched this anime. Okay, like how could I relate this, or how could I share a story from this thing by opening up with the anime and then sharing the thing? And the analytics, dude, on these videos, they're really not good. They're really not good. Like it's like a 30-second or 20-second, but I know that there's like at least 5 people or so out of the hundreds of views that are watching the video all the way through to the end, which to me, that's a very good feeling. And I figure like if that's the case, then I might as well just share these videos as well too, because like this is just something else that I'm creating, and whatever comes of this comes of it. I don't really know anymore, but I'm just like, this channel and these videos is just like, this is just my daily vent in a sense, like my daily ideas of whatever I have going on within my mind, within my world, which helps me lead myself down another path that I might not have originally gone down. So that's just kind of like the outlook or the approach that I've started to take with these videos. And I figure like, and maybe this is changing because now that I'm sharing it, it's like, oh no, I'm gonna be like a little censored. But then I was also thinking about that as well too, where it's like, and I know I bounce all over the place, but that's how I do a lot of my writing and a lot of my thinking, is I bounce all over the place, and then we end up wrapping it up at the end. At least I always do my best to do that, because a lot of the stuff I've found out is very non-linear than it being linear, but that's just my own small little perspective. And that's why when I was thinking about this the other day, like these videos, like sure, I'll share them, I'll just post them online, because like I'm already keeping them to myself. And that's why I had to like come into the car, because there's just something different with being in the car. I was thinking about this too, where I was like, oh, it's so much different being in the car. Like I gotta have my own small little thing or whatever it is. Like I just feel more protected, I guess, being in a car, which is weird compared to like me vlogging or making these videos out in public or something like that. I'd rather just like share this and then have random people on the internet such as yourself watch this, and I'm just like, to me that feels better than me like being out in public and like sharing these things and like talking, because then it's like it's not going to go to the right people. Whereas like when I'm in the car, it's just like me talking to you directly, and I've just found that to be more exciting and enjoyable for myself personally. So I always like to come to the cars and like make these little videos, and sometimes the car can be the best place to think. I do a lot of walking as well too, but like I said, dude, to me, like I've done it and I can continue to do it as well too. Like being able to talk to the camera like on a walk or something like that, to me it's just like I'm out of breath, or I'm not talking as smoothly because like I'm walking and I'm trying to breathe while I'm walking, I'm trying to focus on my breath while I'm walking, or I'm trying to listen to something while I'm walking. So like when I'm in a car, I can just go and I can just like riff off the top of my head of whatever it ends up coming through. But that's where I was like, I just need to get out of the house, just take a little drive, go out before I go to the gym, because I've been going to the gym a lot later. And now that we have the time change, I'm gonna have to start doing something, and I don't mind it at all. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind this at all. I have to start going out a little bit earlier or something like that, because when I'm going to the gym, it's already dark out. So I'm like, if it's dark out, I can't really make a video because it's just gonna be a black screen. Which there's nothing wrong with that per se. I just would rather be able to see myself and like I can hear myself obviously clearly enough like when I do listen back to these videos, so that's not really a bad thing at all by any means. But this is just something that I felt like I'd rather share this, and just to share it. Like that's what I do with a lot of the content now, where back in the day when I was making videos and making content and creating like videos or whatever it may be, like I was always focused on the outcome of, oh, I need to get this many clicks because I need this many people to watch this said video or whatever it may be. And I still do that to a certain extent, don't get me wrong, because I'm like, I always like to just make those small little micro improvements of like, oh, how can I make this title a little bit better? Like I don't focus on thumbnails anymore, because to me personally, dude, like, or cuts, because I listen to so many people online where they don't have any fancy cuts. They don't have like these super elaborate thumbnails. They just have a simple title. That's it, a simple title. And then they just solve the problem that like I had, or like they helped me put together some dots or cure up some curiosities that I didn't originally have in the first place. So I was like, you know what, I might as well just do that same thing, because I personally like that type of content. I like just being able to hear somebody else's thoughts that is either similar to me or a couple of steps ahead of me, or just somebody that is around the same like path as myself. And that's just something that I found to be a lot more enjoyable. I did have another interview today as well too. I think that's at like 4:45, so we got time. I didn't bring my phone with me this day. So that's where I say, like, I have these epiphanies, these thoughts, these ideas, and I'm like, I might as well share them, and maybe they'll resonate, maybe they won't, but it's just one thing that for some odd reason I just feel compelled to put my words out into the world in some way, shape, or form, because I've touched on this a couple of times. This is my way of being able to think and like form ideas and formulate like my own hypotheses, and or just clear up my own perception and way of thinking. Because when I first started making videos, I was not good at this at all. And now that I'm making videos, I'm like, I have noticed myself improve in like a lot. Like I never imagined myself having 1 million views on like a channel that's based around anime. That was always something that I was afraid to do back in the day. I was like, oh no, I can't make this type of content because what are these people going to think about me? And then during COVID, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to make this type of content. Whatever comes of it is the thing that comes of it. And then 4 years later, a little less than 4 years later, like I hit 1 million views. And I'm like, that's incredible. The channel's still not monetized. I don't know if the channel ever will become monetized, and that's just a fact or a thing that I have come to accept, and I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that, because to me it's just like, if you like this idea and if you like the thing that I'm sharing, then you can listen to this. And I was looking at some of my other videos the other day on that channel, and I was thinking about this thing of, I know why the videos, certain videos did better than other videos. Like I do see that now, I understand that now. And a bigger reason was because like I was making it more for like the anime community. I was making it more of like, hey, do you see this? Oh, hey, this person did this. But then the most popular video on the channel though, and this is the kicker, bro. Like the most popular video on that channel is one that is, it's the concept that I wanted to relay. So I'm like, oh, okay, there is some truth to this. Like I can make this happen. I'm still kind of at a loss as to how some video ends up getting like say 40,000 views over like 1,000 views or a couple hundred views or something along those lines. I'm still trying to figure out that whole process. I have a general idea as to why it is. I guess I just never really looked into these things as much as I probably could have beforehand, which maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe that's not a good, maybe that's a wow, maybe that's a good thing, maybe that's not a good thing. I'm not entirely sure. All I do know is that I enjoy the type of content that I do make on that channel. Sometimes I go back and listen to it, sometimes I don't. Like, and maybe that's the downfall, because when I was doing sales, I was always going back and listening to like the conversations or analyzing other people's conversations to see what they're doing. And that's when I was like, oh, and maybe I have this other idea where like I'll just do like a screen recording of me like analyzing other people's channels and figuring out like, oh, this is why it didn't work out, this is what I would do differently. And then people would be like, well, you have never had your own successful channel. But then I'm like, this was the other thought that I had where I'm like, but then there's like professors and there's all these other people out there as well too. Also want to see this too. So there's this place. So there's this sign, like these lights right here. I don't know if you can see those right now. So like these lights right here, I would always ride my bike down this road right there, and I'd be like, this street is terrible. And then I was like, you know what, I want to create like a crossing thing. And then boom, a couple months later we have a crossing thing. That's just a whole different manifestation thing, which we can always get into on like later videos if you ever want to, or maybe I have some other videos on there as well too. When I speak, I just speak. whatever flows through is the things that flow through. And that's why I say, like, this is more of just me sharing my thoughts. I have no agenda. It's just, this is something that pops up in my mind, and I lost the thing that we were talking about beforehand, but it will always end up coming back to me, as it always does, and as it always will. And that's where I'm just like, I am over here. Oh, that's where it's just like, so there's high school professors that like teach business, okay? And yet there's those professors at college have never had a successful business, and yet they themselves are teaching business and how to build a successful business because they're reading it from a textbook. And for some odd reason, I've had this, like, I don't want to say it's a roadblock, but this notion in my own mind that it's like, I have to have done the said thing that I'm wanting to teach. But then I think about that and I'm like, but then there's these other professors and all these other people out there that have just like read from other books and then they decided to go out and teach it. It's the exact same thing with this other lecture that I was listening to last night on how to sell anything to anybody. And this guy, he was a lawyer, and he was relaying his story around how he was offered an opportunity to speak at this convention for eBay for sellers that were individually selling like their items online, but he had no experience and no knowledge necessarily because he had never done something like that beforehand on how to give a presentation around like eBay's and like the legalities of selling as an independent seller on eBay. And eBay's, I don't know if it's still a big thing. I mean, there's a dude in my complex right now that I've talked to a couple of times where he sells like vintage books on eBay. So like there's clearly still a market or an audience for that said thing. But I was thinking about that when he said that, like he never had presented this type of information to anybody beforehand, but somebody called him and was like, hey, I know that you've done like small little legal claims for these other individuals, like maybe once or twice. Do you think that you can give a speech? And he's like, yeah, sure, why not? He's like, I don't know. And then he's like, I hung up the phone, I'm grilling these burgers, and I just sat there and I was like, what did I just do? And he's like, all right, well, I guess we're going to learn. I guess we're going to figure this out. And then he goes out, he buys every book on eBay, he figures out like the best ways to sell, he figures out the best community, like he finds the answers as he's going along. And this is a big proponent of things that I have noticed within myself as well too, is a lot of the times it comes down to knowing my own, I want to say desires, or my own way of like perceiving the world, and realizing that like a lot of everything that we have ever known, I mean everything that we've ever known, unless we were like a child prodigy, but even at that time, like we can look at past lives, and we're not going to go down that route right now, but like that is an option of like what could end up happening, is like why you have certain gifts and talents. But if we think about it, like everything that we have ever known and or learned has all been self-taught in some way, shape, or form, or taught from somebody else, and that somebody else either one is reading from somebody else's experience and teaching the thing that other person taught, or two, that person has actually done the said thing and teaching from their own personal experiences. I don't think one is better than the other, because like they both have learned from some way, shape, or form, and then formulate their own ideas around those said concepts to be able to make it their own from their own past experiences and or other people that they have talked to in the past. And this is just something that I myself have had to overcome as of recently, is because I was always under the impression that like I have to do all of this on my own. I have to have the results, I have to have all this stuff before I can teach it. But then like I have had other clients beforehand. I do want to touch back first on that guy that I was telling you about that like ended up going and like speaking at like eBay and like doing this whole thing. After that very first speech of him reading all these other books to be able to acquire this information, eBay ended up offering him a job where he went around the country speaking for 90 minutes at each of these conventions like once a month, and he was getting paid 10 grand for those 90-minute sessions. And that's where I'm like, hey, that's really cool. Like I'd love to speak, and that's what I'm doing right now within these videos, is I'm sharing and relaying stories that hopefully are inspiring you or helping you like look through different things, because now you don't have to go back and listen to that other video and have all these other experiences that I myself have had and or gone through. So I think about those things, and that's where what I was saying that I just briefly touched on for a brief moment was, I had a client, a friend of mine, she had an art business that she was wanting to end up creating, and she did like digital art, and I was like, I myself have never made $1 off of like Instagram ads, or not Instagram ads, but like off of like my son and my like, but then again, I never really like, I was making Instagram content and Facebook content or YouTube content for the joy, like because I figured like the subscriber amount and I would get paid off of AdSense, which still haven't had that happen, and that's okay. I get it, I understand it, and that's why I just share these things now, because I'm like, I just genuinely, clearly if I was in it for the money, dude, and I'm getting back to the other aspect of the client, just give me one moment, I just need to go on this little side tangent. clearly, if I was in this for the money, then I would have given up long ago because I didn't see the results that I wanted to see from the channel. But I keep coming back to it over and over and over again because I know that, like, me putting in the reps every single day, something, I don't know what's going to happen, but, like, I also get to become better because I get to learn how to speak better. I get to learn how to just understand myself better. And sometimes I can even go back and I can, like, re-listen to the conversations that I've had, or I can go back and I can re-listen to whatever story that I was telling myself in some way, shape, or form, where it's just like, oh, this is where I was at this point in time. So I like being able to do that whenever those moments do arise. They don't arise very often, but I'd rather have that information out there than not. And that's where I say, like, I myself have never, like, made $1 because I never really had a clear offer or something to sell people for them to be able to give me money up until recently, where I'm like, you know what, I've been practicing my coaching, I've been helping other people, just like that client, the friend of mine, where she had, and this is the thing, I have so much knowledge and so much information in so many different domains, so that's why, like, I can go down so many different routes and help you figure out, like, the exact same thing that you are wanting to have figured out, because it can be any realm. Like with her, she did, like, artist work and, like, painted, but she was, like, not on social media at all. She had no experience on social media whatsoever. And then I was like, yeah, hey, like, I don't even remember exactly how the conversation happened. I remember there was one thing where she was one of those girls where, like, I always had a crush on her back in the day, which, don't have these feelings for your clients. I've learned that multiple different times for other people that I've helped out for free. And this is why, like, I know that I can't help with coaching now for paid service, because, like, I have had those previous clients that haven't paid me, and I have given them results even if they don't necessarily acknowledge the results that I have given them, which is perfectly okay. That's just part of the process. That's what I do because I poke the bear a lot of the times. So when I had her as a client, she wanted to sell her art online, and I was like, oh, okay, hey, this is great. Like, I'll help you sell your art. Like, I know how to set up, like, a Facebook page. I know how to create this type of content. Also, dude, this neighborhood, I love the homes in this neighborhood. Like, they just have such pretty homes in this neighborhood. It's so nice. Like, look at this house. That's such a nice house. I love that house. It's a nice house. Just like all these homes. They're nice homes. I like nice houses. What can I say? I also like nice cars, and I like nice houses. And I just like nice things. So with her, she didn't know how to set up an Instagram page. She didn't know how to set up a Facebook page. She didn't know the first place to start to selling her art online. And I was like, well, hey, I have the information. I have the insight to be able to help you sell your art online, even though I myself have never sold anything, but I do know the necessary steps to be able to sell this said thing. And that's where I was like, okay, well, like, let me just share this and see what ends up happening. And then within 2 weeks, I was like, hey, so, like, all you want to do is, like, to set up your Facebook account, like, you can call me, we'll walk through it. We ended up walking through it together. I ended up, like, helping her. Like, we did a screen share. I was like, so you want to do this, click on this, like, you want to make sure that you have your name up here, like, just keep it super simple. You don't want to have, like, too many, like, links in your bio on Instagram. Like, just keep it as simple as you possibly can, which I don't have an Instagram or Facebook page anymore because I was sending out too many DMs. So, like, everything's all YouTube and content based right now, which is perfectly okay because I'd rather just have to focus on one thing than having to focus on, like, 10 different things. Dude, these homes, I love these homes so much. I love this neighborhood. It's fantastic. So she ended up going through and doing a lot of her Instagram work on her own after I helped her and told her, like, just one link in the bio, like, just post once a day, have a single call to action of, like, hey, DM me for this piece or whatever it is. And she did that. She posted a piece of content, a piece of art every single day for about, like, I mean, she's still posting content every day if I'm remembering correctly, which I'm pretty sure she is, but I also can't check on her anymore because I don't have an Instagram page or a Facebook page to be able to check on those things. So I'm kind of SOL in those regards. But within the first 14 days, it was 2 weeks. First 14 days, her and I, we ended up creating something that she didn't originally have created, and she was able to make her first sale by one dude. Like, the first person that came through and, like, sent her a DM on Facebook, she's like, I don't like this guy, like, can you help me close him? So I ended up getting on the phone call with her as well too, and, like, we went through this whole process of, like, oh yeah, hey, like, this is what I would say to this person, and she's like, oh, I just don't feel very comfortable. I'm like, no, I get it, I completely understand. It's a little bit of a foreign concept, like, having to close somebody online with a product that you had never, like, even known, or, like, if you've never had this conversation. And she's like, well, he kind of looks like a bot. And I was like, well, so if you don't feel comfortable with him, like, that's okay. But, like, I ended up messaging him for her. I was like, hey, I'm reaching out on behalf of so-and-so, on behalf of X client. And he's like, oh yeah, no, like, I just really like the art. I wanted to have it in my place. And the dude was like willing, and this is something that I want to highly recommend and drive home to anybody that is doing this. Also, at the same time, you do need to use some discernment, because like if it is your first product and you don't feel right selling to that said person, then don't sell to that said person. But if you're also like, I want to be able to make a sale, then you can sell to that said person. It just really depends on where you're coming from. And she did teach me that as well too. This is the great part about a client and coach relationship, is like we are all learning from each other because we're all leveling each other up. So this client, she ended up having this scenario or this conversation with him, and she's just like, I don't feel right about selling to this dude. I was like, all right, that's cool, because she just didn't feel like he was the right person. The Facebook profile ended up changing, even though the person was like, he's like, hey, I'll send you the money, here's my address, like just put the art in the mail, and once I get the tracking number, like I'll send you the money like right now. And it was like $150 or something like that. And she's like, I just don't want to do that. And I was like, all right, like that's fine, like I understand it. Are you stopping, lady? Thank you. I did not want to get hit right there. And I was like, okay. And that was kind of a little blow to me, because I was like, dude, we had this. Like, this was like perfect. We got you in. We got you a test. Like, got me a testimonial to show like how good of a coach / consultant I am. So I was very focused on myself in that moment. And I understand that that was a shortcoming on my part, and I need to focus more on her needs. But that was something I wouldn't have known unless I went out and did that said conversation in the first place. Because once I did end up having the conversation with her afterwards, there's also a trail that goes all the way along this spot, which I really love walking on. After her and I had that conversation, I was like, okay, like I get it. Like, what type of person would you rather than like have buy-in? She's like, somebody that truly like appreciates my art, isn't just giving me this just because like they want to give me this said thing on it. And it was also an original piece, and she was like, I'd rather sell a print first. And I was like, okay, well, what would that ideal client look like? And she's like, well, somebody that's artsy and like wanting to give back. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then she ended up texting me like a day and a half or 2 days later. She's like, hey, guess what? I just closed my first client. Like, I just got this first sale. I was like, oh, that's awesome. She's like, yeah, the person, she's like, he paid me for 2 prints, but he's like, I don't need both of them, I just need one. So she ended up sending the other one to me, and I was like, that's really cool. And I was like, that was the type of client, that was the type of customer that she wanted to have, and she was able to get that customer by us being able to talk and identify the exact, say, problem that she was wanting to solve. And I've had this with a lot of other people too, because I was then talking with another guy last night, and he was telling me about how he wants to be like, he wants to go off and do this like poker work basically. And I'm like, well, what's stopping you? He's like, well, I have 2 years at this current company, and then I'm going to get a very large sum of money if I end up staying there for 2 years. And I was like, well, what if you start like teaching other people to do the type of thing that you're doing? He's like, I could do that, but he's like, there's a lot of different other people out there. And he's like, I just want to play the game. And I was like, yeah, but if you're teaching other people, then you can start to play the game, and you don't have to wait the 2 years at the company where you're not happy. And he's like, yeah, I kind of get what you're mean there. And he's like, maybe I'll look into it, maybe I won't. This is just like the beginning stages, and why I'm so adamant, maybe not even adamant, but why I love just talking to people. There's another really cool house over there as well too. It's just another reason why I really like just talking to people and figuring out like, well, what is it that you truly want to do? Because clearly whatever you're doing right now, like maybe it's making you happy, maybe it's not making you happy, I don't know. But having somebody look at it from an outside perspective, there's also this one too. And I know we can say we're getting distracted, but like, look at that house, dude. Like, it's got a whole arch thing, you got garages, you got a lot of windows. It's so neat. I love architecture and houses like that. It's so cool. So with the other guy that was the poker person, I was like, well, like, what's stopping you? And he was just like, it's just the monetary means. Like, I just need to have more money. I was like, okay, like I get it, I understand it. So like, why don't we look at it from a different perspective? I ended up grabbing his number, and I was like, if you want to work, like, if you ever need help or need somebody to talk to about this, like, by all means, I'm here to help you out. Because I was talking with somebody the other day prior to then as well too, and she's like, you're basically like a counselor or a therapist that's not getting paid because people just open up to you all the time. I'm like, yep, that is right on. So that's where I'm like, I'd like to be able to get paid for the work that I do now. And since I've been able to drive other people's clients and their results as well too, then I'm like, okay, well, if I'm able to do this for somebody else, then that means that I can do this like for myself as well too. I'm just doing it in a different way. Like, I'm selling the information that I have so that you don't have to spend years of your life trying to go through the same information that I have been able to gain over the years, because my information was always trying to help other people learn their passions. Which I didn't understand this for the longest time. I was like, I need to have my own passion, but my passion is like learning and helping other people overcome and achieve their passion. It's weird. It's a little contradictory, but like, that's just something that I myself have come to realize about myself, is I like being able to see other people succeed in the ways that they are wanting to succeed in. And sometimes having an outside perspective is very useful, because I'm able to look at you from an outside perspective and be like, oh, well, hey, have you looked at it this way? Or like, what if you did things a little bit different and decided to look at it this way? And like, oh, I never really thought about that. Because even one of my good friends too, like him and I, we chat about that all the time, and I'm just like, oh bro, like, have you thought about it this way? Because like I just look at things from a different perspective, and I'm able to connect dots in a different way than most people are able to connect the dots in, because I tailor my experiences and stories to things that you already know, so that then they resonate more with you, because I'm able to speak your language regardless of what that may be. I'm better in certain areas than others, but like I'm pretty good in almost all languages, which is, it's a trip because I can just like make these different analogies by listening to, and then once I listen to it, I'm like, okay, then I can just like reframe it in a way that does make sense to you, even if I have no understanding of it whatsoever. So like I have no understanding of like Formula One, and yet I'm able to like use a Formula One reference because somebody else had said that same thing. So that's why like I listen a lot to the people that are talking to me, and then like once I see something where I'm like, oh, okay, there's something right there, and then I pick on that little thing by using something, and maybe not even pick, but like I bring that thing to the awareness, to the attention of the client that I'm working with, to let them know that like, oh yeah, you can think about it this way. It's like, oh, okay, I did not know that. And it's just like, yeah, that's why I'm here. Like I'm here to help you find those small missing pieces that you didn't originally know. And it can be around making money, it can be just around your own self-inquiry, it can be around like really anything. I just know from me and my own personal experiences, I've always been somebody that I'm like, you know what, I might as well make money, but I've also come to realize that there's not a lot of people out there that want to be able to make the same type of money that I do, to be able to have the same type of freedom, because we all have different tops or peaks to a certain mountain. Because I was on a hike several weeks ago before it started to become all snowy. It was like in the middle of whenever there was like whenever the trees were starting to change colors, and I was on the hike and I was walking up, and there's like 2 different lakes that we could have gone to. So like I ended up going up to the first lake, and then I was like, well, I'm so close, like I see the second lake, but I'm also like, I have no idea how much further the second lake is. But I'm like, you know what, I might as well just go to the second lake. Dude, that second lake was brutal, bro. Like I was like, I just want to go home. The clouds are coming in. It was getting miserable. I was hungry, but I was like, I just had to make it. I just have to make it. I just have to make it. So I didn't want to get snowed on. I didn't want to get rained on. And it was one of those days where like I started my day a little bit later. And if you know anything about like 13ers, 14ers in Colorado, most of the time you don't get the stuff done earlier in the day, because most of the time the storms will run in around like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And that's what ended up starting to happen. Like we started to get a little bit of snow on the way back down. I was like, hey, that's all good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're clear. So like I left and stayed up there at the right time in the ways that I needed to. And what I realized before I was making it up to the top was like I was talking to a lot of people on the trail on the way up, and a lot of the people, if not all of the people, I didn't see any of them again on my way up. Like or on my way down. Like I didn't see any of them, and I was like, well, that's kind of sad. There's a lot of, but that was sad to me, not maybe to them. To them, they probably achieved and accomplished something that they themselves didn't think that they could accomplish in the first place. And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty neat that somebody was able to do that. And for them to be able to find their peak, because maybe it was just that first place where there's like this like open space, like with the trees that they could see, and that was like their peak. Even though I tried to encourage some people, it's like, I'm like, hey, do you want to get to the lake? They're like, nah, I don't think we will. Or one girl was like, I was like, hey, how is it for the, like, did you make it to the lake? She's like, no, the rocks got really tough and hard. And like when I was going up to the lake, dude, I was like, what do you mean the rocks got really tough and hard? Like, but then my level of hard is completely different from your level of hard or her level of hard. Like we all have different levels of hard, and what we want is all different from what somebody else is telling us that we do want, and why I'm such a big proponent in doing the things that you yourself want to do, regardless of what that may be, or regardless of what somebody else may say, because you're never going to make everybody happy. That's what I've come to realize with some of the content that I post on like TikTok. It's like the comments that I would get, like people would be bashing me in some way, and I'm like, dude, like this is uncalled for. I'm just trying to help you out. But I also understand that I'm poking buttons in these people that are like, they don't want to look at things, because a lot of the times we don't want to look at our own reflection. And that was the case. Actually, I've always looked at my own reflection. Like there's been times where like I would just stare at myself in the mirror, and I just like look deeply in my eyes and be like, okay, well, what am I seeing? Like what do I see? What do I need to improve? What do I need to do a little bit differently? And then I just make those small little adjustments and changes. And that's why it's just like, you don't have to have actually done the said thing yourself. If you just read all the books, or you have like experienced it in some way, shape, or form, depending on where you're coming from, I'm under the impression that you can teach that you can share that knowledge, that you have some sort of insight, because you're going to be a couple of steps ahead of somebody else. It could be a couple of steps ahead of people younger than you. It could be a couple of steps ahead of people that are older than you. It just really depends on where you are at in your life and the things that you yourself are wanting to do. Because I don't know you, but I do know the people that I have worked with, and I do realize and recognize now for the first time in actually it's probably like the first time in my life, that I don't have to have all the answers. If there's ever a problem or a situation that does come up, like I was telling you about the eBay guy at the beginning, he doesn't have to have, like, he didn't have all the answers, but what he did have was he had the information and the willingness to go out and learn that said thing. So I'm like, if I'm presented with a scenario or a question like I did with one of my buddies where he's just like, yeah, neuroscientist, he's like, you have to be able to measure these types of things for spirituality and like the metaphysical stuff. And I was like, okay. And then I found a book that goes into those exact same topics. And now I'm learning about that said thing, but I wouldn't have been able to learn about that said thing to find a problem or a solution to that said question until I had that question proposed to me. So whenever I'm presented with new information or something that I don't understand, I always go out and I learn in the best ways that I possibly can to be able to come back with something that is new, unique, and different that'll hopefully either solidify the point that I had or break the point that I had and realize that like maybe I need to learn some more things. And that's what I've come to realize from like being able to just like learn and educate yourself. And you don't have to be the person that's necessarily doing it yourself to be able to have the information to teach somebody else. Well, at the same time, like if you do have the understanding within your own self and you're like confident with your own abilities to learn and grow and learn the information and implement the things that I talk about or that I have done, then I don't know, I feel like that's the better way to go about it. Because like I have been able to deliver results for other people. I can't lift the ore for you. I can't lift I can't drink the water for you. I just can't, as much as I wish I could. I can't lift the weights for you. I can't watch the shows for you. The shows I can watch with you. The weights I can lift with you as well too. I can't do the things for you that you need to do for yourself. I can only do the things that I can do for myself. And what you do from there, that's completely up to you. And I've just come to realize that over the past several months, it's like, I can't control what somebody does as much as I wish I could. Oh, I wish I could. I really, really wish I could. I just know I can't. So all I can do is I can keep moving forward and doing the work that I myself can do. And why I came out to make this video right now is because I was like, I have something that I want to talk about and I want to make some more content. And since I can't post any more content on the page that I have right now, I might as well come out and make another video that like leads to something, or at least just lets me like express myself and talk about these ideas. And if it comes to something cool, if not, so be it. I just genuinely love sharing these things, talking about these ideas, covering these concepts, and exploring this crazy world that we live in, because there's so many opportunities out there. And if you find somebody that you resonate with, do something about it, because there's a lot of people out there that are going to be teaching the exact same thing or saying the same thing just in a different way. And it's just all about coming and going with the person that you connect with the most, because there's a lot of different information, there's a lot of different religions, there's a lot of different people out there. And I always was like, oh, it's all the same stuff. But then I'm like, why, if it's all the same, like why are there all these other people? And then I can realize it's because certain people resonate better with other people, just as I myself have realized like I might resonate more with one person versus the other, so I'd rather go to this person's thing compared to that person's thing. It's just all about the energies that we end up having come into our life, and why some people we get along with more and other people don't get along with all that much. So that was my little car drive spiel for the day. We'll upload this, go to the gym in a couple of hours after I have that last little interview in about an hour or so, and I don't know what we're going to do from there, but that's kind of the plan. That's the play. We could have kept talking and going on, but I figure we'll leave it at that point, and yeah, if we have something else for a little bit later, then I'll do that then.